are live. What's up, everybody? How are you doing? And welcome to the Chapman Show. I am your host, Joel Chapman, aka the Little Juggernaut. And as always, I want to have a good show, a good podcast, and the biggest art premieres in history. Just in case you have not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Joel Chapman, The Chapman Show on YouTube, or The Chapman Show on Facebook. And today we have a very, very special guest. We have Mr. Kayla Herron from Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships. So, without further ado, give it up for Kayla Herron. How are you doing today?
What's going on, bud? Not much, man. Just kind of chilling out here.
Okay. That's what's up. So, you fought for Bare Knuckles Fighting Championship, what, 3 times? 3-0?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm 2-1.
2-1. 2-1.
I lost my first fight to Harris Stevenson by a split decision.
Oh.
I let it go to the judges and just never let it. In my whole fighting career, I've never had good odds when it went to the judges, but it was a split. One judge saw just one more round to him instead of me, and so after that, I told everybody I was going to come back and I was going to show y'all a whole new me. And very next fight, I came back and got a 1 million view knockout. So
that's nice. So you said 1 million views?
yeah, I think it's at like last time I saw it. I don't check it much anymore, even though my teammates give me hell thinking that I do. But the last I saw it was at like 1.3, 1.4 million views.
That's a lot of people who know who you are. That is
Yeah.
awesome. So like, what does it feel like? Because I mean, I'm a fighter myself. You know what I mean? But I've never fought. I don't have any million view type of fights. You know what I mean? And I've never fought on something that big. So is it a little bit surreal to actually fight in the bare knuckles ring? How is it compared to fighting in MMA? How does it translate?
So on the local circuit, and you may be able to relate, especially for the MMA area, everybody's trying to let you know that they're top dog. Regardless of their weight class, you have a 35er, staring down a 185er just to prove a point.
Right.
But I'm kind of echoing a little bit.
Oh, you echoing? I can hear you just fine.
Okay. But at the BKFC, most of these guys are former UFC vets. Like my first fight, I was in the same back corner as Artem Lobov, and all these guys, man, they're so cool. And like I thought Artem was going to be more like Conor, and he's the exact opposite. Like he was laid back, stayed to himself, was not trying to do anything major. Came over and talked to me because I was supposed to start the pay-per-view card that fight, and that was nerve-wracking. And then they told me that they had too many fights on the card, so they were going to bump me. If they had room, they would stick me on the pay-per-view. If not, I might have to fight after the main event, which meant I wouldn't even be on TV. And so I'm kind of pissed off. I'm not pissed off. I'm kind of upset. This is my first big time. A bunch of people are getting together to buy the fight just to watch me. And Artem comes up to me and starts talking to me. He's like, man, just go out there and show them why you need to be on the pay-per-view. And the Lord worked mysterious ways because that night I actually got the co-main event, the Artem Jason night. Chris Liebman went out there and murdered a dude in like 19 seconds. And they grabbed me and threw me on the stage. After that, it's become more and more calm, like being back there. Like everybody knows everybody. Like Johnny Bedford, Jim Amler's, all them. They're all super cool guys outside the ring. I've seen opponents have their corners come wrap their opponent's hands because their opponent didn't have anybody to wrap their hands. Like it's a lot more laid back, like it's a job. And at the end of the day, you're just there to go put on a show. Most of these guys are big names already. I'm the guy that went from being 3-1 in MMA on a local circuit to now I'm bumping shoulders with former UFC vets and sitting in the hotel room talking to Sid Duran like it's just another day. But
wow,
it's been surreal, that's for sure. But I'm finding more and more of myself at home around these guys. The more and more I'm in it.
That makes sense. So you said that you actually know Artem, you talked to him. Like, what is it like? Did you ask him anything about Conor? Like, I mean, I'm just curious
No,
about.
no. I, Me personally, like that was all everybody kept asking about to Artem when I was watching like his interviews and stuff like that. And have you heard from Conor? Conor this. I was like, this man's trying to make a name for himself, and like him and Conor, I know are boys, but like I know he's got to feel some type of way being under that big of a shadow. Like anytime somebody sees you, all they think is, oh, that's Conor's teammate, and I was the same way, But I'm like, I didn't really think he wanted to talk to anybody. He was kind of sitting off to himself, and like he came up to me and was kind of talking, and so no, I knew better than to ask about Conor. I'm sure he wouldn't mind, but at the same time, like, he's there just like I am to try to build a name for himself, not build a name for Conor.
That makes sense. So after Chris Lieben, after he got that win and like they kind of bumped you to the co-main event, after your fight, did you actually get a chance to enjoy the first Jason Knight and Artem Lobov fight?
No, I was in the back getting stitched up with a bottle of scotch in my hand. I was pissed because the doctor would not leave me alone and long enough to let me go finish watching the fight. Like he's like, you'll thank me later for doing this now. I'm like, well, right now I just want to hit you. But
wow, and they let you actually drink because when you drink it thins out your blood. So they just didn't.
He really wouldn't argue with me much. Like I was laying there with a bottle of scotch, and I'm like, dude, I'm ready to drink and like go have some fun. Like can we hurry this up? And I don't know if y'all can actually see it or not, but like all that little line right there is the scar. That was my very first time ever getting cut in fight and having it the first 30 seconds of the fight.
Wow. Now you said that was your first time ever getting cut. How did you adjust in the fight, or how was it? How did it feel to actually get cut? And
my heart rate went through the roof. Like I was like terrified. Like on pay-per-view, worldwide television, I'm fixing to have this fight called because of a stupid cut, and I managed to get through the first round. And you can go back and watch it when I fought Harris. The first 2 rounds were definitely his, because I was trying to calm myself down. I was trying to relax and get used to it. But in the 3rd round, you actually see me start smiling. It's kind of a creepy photo on my Facebook page because like I'm covered in blood, I'm smiling and grinning ear to ear because I found my rhythm. And once I realized that my cut man at the time, Vic, the cutman Vic, I realized that each round he was sealing my cut up, and it would just open up again within the first minute of the round. So I was like, okay, as long as I can keep the action going and the movement going, I was like, they're not going to stop this fight. And so I ended up going all 5 rounds with Harris, and a lot of people felt like I won the last 3, but I don't argue about that. I'm one of those guys. If it goes to the judge's decision and you disagree with it, you shouldn't have let it go to the judges. And arguing and fussing, complaining about it just makes you look worse. So
that makes sense. So every time the cut reopened, how bad did that actually feel? Did you feel it, or was your adrenaline?
I never felt it after that. After the first initial cut, I never felt it. My adrenaline was up. I was more focused on the punches being thrown at me.
That makes sense. So how did it actually feel to get your first win on such a big card? Like how did it actually feel? Was it like surreal? Were you like, oh my God, I actually won this? I mean, like what was your initial emotion when you were done with the fight?
You can go back and find the video, and there's tons of highlight clips. I always told everybody when I got my first knockout, they was going to have to hold me down because I was going to be running around flipping and screaming finally. And in reality, I didn't do any of that. I knocked the dude down 3 times in the first round, dropped him again right off at the beginning of the second, and then the famous knockout happened. And instead of me getting all excited and everything, I remember watching him fall and then just walking away with my hand held out. And I just had this look on my face like, I've done it. This is it. I've proven that this is where I belong, and that nobody is going to tell me that I'm crazy anymore for getting in bare knuckle, and which they still do, but now it's a funny you're crazy. But at that point, I was just kind of I was kind of awestruck in the moment. Like 20 years in the making. I mean, not 20 years, but I've been chasing that fight that knockout since I was 18 years old. So 8 years in 20 fights in the making. I finally got it, and I got it on national television. So after that, I started getting hit up with podcasts that wanted to interview me. I got hit, and it was like I made that fight took me for the next step in making my career fighting.
Okay, now out of curiosity, how did you actually start? I want to like, I mean, I kind of know, but I want you to kind of explain to people who might not actually heard of how you started. How did you actually start martial arts, and what was your motivation?
I was a kid. I loved Power Rangers, and honestly, I told my mom and dad I wanted to do karate because I wanted to be a Power Ranger. And I told my first coach that. Walked right up to him, and he said, "Why do you want to do martial arts?" I want to be a Power Ranger. And he laughed and said, "Okay." And I've been training with Larry since I was 7 years old. I've never stopped. I did Shotokan karate until I was 12. And, well, I did it until I was 18, but at 12, I started to get bored. So he introduced me to his adult class of kickboxing and jiu-jitsu. And from that point, I started doing it. And as I progressed, the more and more I progressed, I mean, I've always just been I'm not an aggressive person outside of the ring, but I've always been competitive. Like, I always want to try to prove that I'm better than I used to be. So I had me and my best friend, we did a exhibition kickboxing match. And then just from that point on, I just wanted to be in the ring. I wanted to fight. That was all I've ever wanted to do, was I wanted to fight and do what I loved as a living. Like, and no job, no other career has ever been what I wanted to do. And so at 18, we're at some fights where an older guy that trained with us was fighting, and my coach came up to me and was like, "Do you still want to fight?" I was like, "Yep." And he goes, "All right, drop the next card in 2 months. We're going to get you ready." I was like, "Okay." And so I had my first 2 amateur MMA fights my senior year in high school.
Wow, that is crazy. Now, you said that you had never really been a street person. You had never gotten to like street fights or anything. And the first time,
dude, I was the geek in school. I was the kid that played Pokemon, still do. And if anybody wants to say anything, they can fight me. I was the kid that I played Pokemon. I watched Marvel comics and movies, and I knew all the stuff about superheroes and this, that, and the other. Like, I was big into mythology. Like, I was the geek in school, and you know, I had big ears. I got picked on. I had my buddies, you know, that had my back, but you know, and I didn't like confrontation. I've never been I even to this day, like, if you were arguing with somebody in the same room as me, like, I'm probably going to walk out of the room. I just don't like confrontation. I don't. And but yeah, my first ever time getting in a fight, bare fist, was on Bare Knuckles on 5th car. And that's what one of my teammates laughed at me about. He's like, "That's crazy that you've never been in a street fight and you're fixing to get paid to go get basically a street fight."
So how did it translate to actual? Because, of course, you know, you did karate, you did jiu-jitsu. How did it feel to actually? I mean, that's such a crazy jump. I grew up street fighting. I fought bare knuckle in underground fight clubs and stuff like that, and fought on the streets. So it was kind of weird for me to go from like the street fighting atmosphere to fighting with gloves. At first, it kind of felt weird. So how weird was it for you to go from, you know, fighting with gloves and stuff to actually fighting bare knuckle? How did it feel natural at first, or did it feel weird, or how did it actually feel?
I explain to people, hitting with gloves is like hitting with a hammer. It's dull, it's blunt, but it hurts like hell. Getting hit with bare knuckles was like getting hit with knives. Like, and I didn't realize at the time, like, I landed a lot of left hooks on Harris, but I landed them to his orbital bone, right on his cheek. And after about the 3rd or 4th round, I started thinking twice about every jab I threw, because my knuckles had already started to swell, and every time I hit him, it hurt me as well. I'd land a shot, but it would hurt. So after that fight, I realized accuracy was a real big thing, and head movement was going to become a huge a key factor in winning fights. And you can actually see me and him didn't move our heads very much in that fight. But my next two fights, my head movement, my footwork, and my accuracy with my punches became top notch because I went back and me and my coach, Johnny Little, we just drilled constantly, head movement, slips. We were not going to take punches because that was something he had to promise my dad. My dad and my mom were not keen on me doing this bare knuckle thing, especially not after the first fight with me all busted up. And, you know, when it came out, you know, my coach thought I could really make a go at this. He gave me the backing. That set me on fire. And so, like, I had to make a promise to my dad. I was like, I'm gonna get better at moving my head so I don't take damage. And honestly, in my last two bare knuckle fights, I took less damage than I have in my last 3 MMA fights that I've had. So
that is so crazy. That is so crazy. So, what do your parents say? Because my parents hate that I fight. Did they ever support you in MMA, or are they still freaking out about bare knuckles? Or I mean,
my mom, she'll hold her breath the whole time I'm fighting, but she's there every time. I've had 21 fights, and she has been there every single time. So has my dad. Anytime I've needed anything for training, my dad has helped me get it. Paid for competitions for me to go get and seminars for me to go to that I couldn't afford. My parents have been a great support system that I've had, and I'm very blessed to have that. But yeah, the bare knuckle and stuff, they was literally, if my dad's coming around a little bit more, my mom at this point just is kind of like, well, he's 26 years old. No matter what I tell him, you know, I'm gonna be there and I'm gonna support him. So they're both very proud of me, and I wouldn't be here without them. That's for sure.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, it's good that your parents support you. My parents will not come to my stuff. They won't do it. So it's awesome to hear that. That's actually pretty refreshing. So you just got another big win on Bare Knuckles FC9, and that was a nasty knockout. So how did it feel to get that knockout? Let's talk about that last fight.
Well, this guy was really awkward. Like his style was awkward. I don't think he got into a boxing gym until 2 weeks before the fight when he took it with me. He used to fight. I've watched him fight before over in Europe, and he had his hands down, like, you know, just swinging haymakers. Well, he comes out, and he's got his hands up, throwing straight punches, but he's like leaning back. So it took me a minute in the first round to start kind of figuring out what I needed to do to set up for my shots. And then you can tell in the second round, when I start dropping him, it's because I've started going to the body and then following back up to the head. I headhunted a lot in that fight for some reason. I don't know why. But this guy, I think I was doing a lot of damage to the side of his eye because I was actually surprised that the ref called it at the end of the second round. I wasn't unhappy because I've been fighting a cold and been sick as a dog that whole week. So I'm trying to cut weight, and you know, I can't breathe out my freaking nose. I'm taking Mucinex every 4 hours to try to keep my cough from sounding like I'm dying. So the whole time while I'm in the ring, my chest is on fire. So I'm just like, every time I knock him down, I'm like, don't get up, dude. Just I'm done wailing on you. Don't get up. But he kept getting back up. He's a tough dude, and so like I just kept having to be aggressive and apply the damage. And I guess I just done so much damage to him and cut him, busted him up that the ref saw it. I think Stitch maybe said that I broke his nose real bad, but his eye was completely swollen shut by the end of the night. I know that for sure. And but I mean, my hat's off to him. I have respect for any man that steps in any kind of ring on a 2-week notice. I mean, I've been training for this fight for 12 weeks, and this man decided to step in on 2 weeks. So.
Oh my God, that's so crazy. You were talking about his eye was shut completely after the fight. I interviewed Jason Knight not too long ago, and he was telling me that about maybe 3 days after the fight, you just absolutely feel horrible. So how long does it take? Like, Like me, whenever I've had like MMA fights, it's about maybe at like 3 o'clock in the morning. You know what I'm talking about? Maybe about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when your adrenaline goes down. It feels like you get hit by a car. Now, how does that trend? Is it the same with bare knuckle? Is it worse? Is it better?
Dude, my first bare knuckle fight is the only one I really took damage in. So other than like a split lip or something like that, and all that really made me feel was pain when I went to eat at IHOP afterwards. But now the first fight with Harrison, man, my eye was swole up real big. I had cuts, I had band-aids and everything. The swelling really set in about 2 o'clock that morning at IHOP, and like my head was hurting. I told the girl I was with, I was like, look, my buddies, I was like, let's go back to the hotel room. I don't even feel like going out and drinking. Like we'll drink at the hotel room. And but the next couple of days, I took off from work, and I made the mistake of sleeping face down into the bed. And I woke up the next morning, and all that swelling had went to my eye. I looked like Rocky at the end of the first one, where he's screaming out, "Adrian, we did it!" And his face is just swollen. His eye swollen, like I could barely open my eye. And I've got a really good healing factor. Everybody was surprised because like I was at the gym Monday night. I mean, I was busted up and couldn't do a whole lot, but I was doing what I could. But within a week, I was perfectly fine again.
Wow.
And so it's just been the one thing I don't. If you're not careful about where you're landing, that I realized is you'll get stone bruises on your knuckles, and those take a little while to heal. And so like you have to be careful in what you're doing right after the fight, so that that can heal. Which I'm thankful for one of my sponsors, Mystic Roots CBD. They've got some CBD infused pain relief cream that is supposed to be really good for the joints and for pain. So when I get some of that in, I'll be using it to kind of help finish healing up.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, now I have to ask you about suicide awareness. Okay, now why did you want me to specifically bring up? It has to be a story. It has to be some type of story. So please fill me in. Let me know, why did you want to talk about suicide awareness specifically?
Man, everybody in this world fights demons. I'm no different. I deal with anxiety. I've dealt with depression. Had a bad relationship. Admitted some things that I had done, and got called pretty much everything you could think of under the sun for some bad decisions I made, and got put in a bad place. And I know other people have been there. I've had friends that suffer from depression and anxiety that thought about it. I've even had friends call and tell me before that they thought about it so far as that they had a barrel of a gun in their mouth and they didn't. And a lot of people think, just like they think doctors don't get sick, a lot of people want to think that these fighters are big hard asses, that don't have a heart, they want to just go out there. When in fact, 9 times out of 10, a lot of fighters are the ones that fight with this on a daily, and that's why we fight. Like, for me, training was my escape. It was my salvation, along with Jesus, that helped get me through this. And so any chance I can, I like, especially with these podcasts coming up now, I like to just take a moment and let people know that, like, I don't care, man, woman, child, like, the darkness that you're fighting, you don't have to fight by yourself, and that there is light in the tunnel. You just have to keep walking. Like, no matter how long the road seems, if you stop moving, you're going to stay there. And it's just, I just hope that maybe someday somebody will see this and be like, well, he's a fighter, and he's all over TV, and he's still talking about, because there's a stigma that, like, especially as men, we're not supposed to talk about it. We're not supposed to talk about our feelings. We're not supposed to talk about when we feel upset about something or somebody hurts us or, and that in turn creates an internal struggle in your head. And, like, I've thankfully got a great group of friends that, like, at any point in time, like, no matter if it's relationship or if it's, family or financial, whatever kind of reasons I may be having anxiety, I can call and talk to them, and they'll sit there and listen to me. And then they'll kind of help me kind of walk it back through. And, so I've just had a lot of people tell me that it's great for them to hear that guys like fighters come out and admit to battling these same kind of problems just like everybody else does. And so I'm just trying to prove the stigma wrong one day at a time.
That makes sense. It was one of my opponents a while ago. Like me and him, we had our differences. We were friends, and we kind of got into it. And ironically, when you said putting a barrel gun in your mouth and shoot, that's actually how he killed himself. And it brought back bad memories. We were supposed to have a rematch, and well, now there'll never be a rematch.
Yeah.
And I've had quite a few friends and still commit suicide, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And me, I battle depression. It was a few weeks ago. I was just a little depressed. That's hard to shake. It's just hard to shake sometimes. And everybody battles stuff like that. So I'm very, very glad that you brought that up. Okay, it's almost been a half an hour already. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sure has.
So do you have any sponsors or anybody that you actually want to thank or give any shout outs to?
Yes, I want to shout out to my two gyms that I train with, Black Sails MMA, and then Primal Martial Arts Academy. I want to thank my sponsors, Namido Jiu-Jitsu, Lyle's Machinery, Mystic Roots CBD, Shelly's Electric. Shout out to the MMA Holes, first podcast they ever had me on. And Cypress Bayou Embroidery that did all my fight shirts for me in this last one that I'm still selling. And all the many people that have just helped me out throughout these fights. I just want to thank everybody. I'm sure I probably missed a few, but I just want to thank everybody. I want to thank you for having me on, man.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And as soon as you get a fight announcement, I definitely want you back on. Definitely.
Will do, man. You'll be one of the first to know.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and you have a great day.
You too, man. God bless.
God bless you, too. Okay, everyone, that was Kaleb Harris. Very nice guy, very intelligent guy, very good fighter for Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships. Thank you very much for watching the podcast, and if you have not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. You can find me on YouTube at Joel Chapman. Just type in The Chapman Show, Joel Chapman. Boom, you will find my YouTube channel, or you can click in the link below. Thank you very much, and until next time.